Guys, I just drove 40 minutes for a battery swap right here. This is the only battery swap station in this city that I am in right now. This is Fuqing in Fujian province. And this is where NIO's 100x growth potential lies. You see, here in this city, it's actually a very bustling city, a very good city with lots of rich people. The problem is, because of low sales, NIO doesn't put a lot of infrastructure here. The infrastructure is absolutely appalling. And people, because you don't have infrastructure, you don't have stores, people don't really know about you. And, you know, driving 40 minutes for a swap doesn't really make much sense, to be honest. Of course, in bigger cities, you don't have to do that. Probably drive like 10-15 minutes max for a swap in bigger cities. But as you can tell around me, these are all chargers. The EV penetration here is actually all right, quite decent, all right? People are indeed buying EVs, but of course, if your infrastructure isn't there, it's very tough sell. I've seen a couple of NIOs here around 4 or 5 when I was driving to this swap station, all right? And according to the swap technician, actually this one swap station is enough for this entire city. Well, in my opinion, this is where the growth potential is. This right here is the only store in Fuqing, NIO store. They don't have one store, and that's it. So guys, this is actually a flash store. According to the sales reps here, it's not an official NIO space. It's more of just a flash pop-up store. They got several vehicles here, ET5P, ES8, ES6, and the EC6 over there as well. So pretty good selling vehicles in general. And then the TV is not really showing anything, but this is the only store here. And I've been told that the reason it's not like a proper NIO space or a proper NIO house is because of the fact that the sales numbers aren't really up there yet. And it doesn't really make a lot of sense to put that much infrastructure here in the store. So yeah, there's definitely one guy checking out. I'm gonna go help out the sales and maybe talk to a few persons and yeah, give them a few advice. Yeah. So guys, that customer, I talked to him for a good 15 minutes explaining how I came from Beijing, 6 swaps along the way, got here, no charging, and how convenient battery swap was. He was a little bit confused, so I explained to him what battery swap was. You basically, there's auto parking into the swap station, and then battery goes out, fully charged when it comes in. And after about explaining for like 2 minutes of what battery swap is, he said he still did not understand what battery swap was. So I had to pull out a YouTube video, one of my YouTube videos, to showcase and show him what a battery swap station looked like. Unfortunately, that store, the screen, it was working, but it was showcasing, as you saw, just some random pictures, and then they were also playing the in-cab safety stuff. But but this clearly tells you that customers have no idea what the hell battery swap is. Even after you explain it to them, you have to show them a video. And even after that, they're still skeptical about what it is. And, you know, with conversation with the sales rep after the customer left, you know, it's very clear that most of the people have a very high learning curve before they fully understand what NIO is all about. And most of the people that do actually end up buying the car are in fact people that have done their homework, done research, and realized how important and nice battery swap is, essentially. And what's also very interesting is the store is very different from like the Hangzhou NIO house stores or some of the other stores that we might have seen. And the reasoning is because every single provincial city has their own management team. All right, they have a general manager, and then under them they have the team for everything for NIO Power, sales, etc., promotional events, etc., etc. So they all have different ways of doing things, essentially. And this is quite interesting because you're seeing that at certain locations where sales are fantastic and there's like very good, strong promotional stuff, and sometimes using iPads in Hangzhou, and then a very aggressive, I guess, get it or you miss it kind of promotion in Shanghai. For example, last year before the year ended, they had these daily alerts telling customers that, you know, the license plate policy is going to go away very soon. You got 21 days left until it's gone, until it's changed. It's going to be harder to get license plate. So you better get that. And then 20 days left, 19 days left. It gives customers a sense of urgency. And what's very apparent right now is that management team is very different from every single city. And this is very interesting. It does have its own benefits, that the general manager has a lot of flexibility with how they want to play things. Of course, at the end of the day, they're measured based on sales. If their sales performance is bad, then of course, you know, they might get changed or replaced. But they got their own way of doing things, okay? But that also means that sometimes, you know, sales might not be as effective as some other cities. What's also interesting is that budget is based on sales, which I think is an absolutely wrong move, because if you're selling well, then you have more budget allocated to your city and you're able to build more infrastructure and more new houses or that, stuff like that, which I think, you know, it makes sense. You wouldn't want to place a lot of infrastructure in cities that just, you know, doesn't sell anything. That would be a waste of money. Well, it would be irresponsible. But this city that I'm in currently is very interesting because the GDP is actually very, very high. There's lots of rich folks, all right? A lot of people that studied abroad, actually, in this city, Fucheng. So the GDP is actually very high. People have a lot of money, but there's no infrastructure here for NIO. And I think what's really important, because what we're seeing is, for example, Shanghai, Beijing, these are essentially saturated markets. It's very hard for sales to double over there or triple or quadruple. But in these smaller tier cities, it's very easy for sales to essentially 10x or 100x, basically. And back at the end of 2022, NIO CEO actually said in his letter to all NIO employees that there was one village, all right, just one village where there was one swap station. And because of that one swap station, word of mouth really spread out. And then they had over 160 NIO owners from that one single village. And that just really shows how powerful having infrastructure at the right place is. So I think it's very important that NIO places infrastructure and spends money and budget based on GDP and consumer spending, all right, and not based on performance, because here, you know, they could really use a lot more swap stations and more NIO houses, and these guys here can definitely afford it. So it's a very interesting dilemma that I think is really hurting sales. NIO's putting infrastructure in more saturated markets, whereas with those markets with high growth potential, you know, they're not putting as much infrastructure or allocating as much budget there because the sales performance isn't that good. And because there isn't that much infrastructure, sales don't really have a chance to improve that much. So this is why there's 100x potential in these fourth and fifth tier cities, as long as they get the infrastructure right and people know about it. I mean, like right now you see, like, people have no idea what battery swap is in these cities. They are very rich, they have the money, but they just don't know about it, which is very unfortunate. But imagine if they did. All right, imagine if they did, if there was infrastructure there, if there was a NIO house, like just one NIO house here in Fucheng, and people were able to realize how critical battery swap is. And I want to be clear, because this, the swap station, the one swap station in Fucheng, when I just got here yesterday morning, around lunchtime, there was a NIO owner from Shenzhen, from Guangdong, that was there because they had the Guangdong place. There was a NIO owner from Shanghai because with the Shanghai plate. And then there was me with the Beijing plate. So clearly you can see that this city is actually like a hometown for a lot of these folks, all right? For me, it's my wife's hometown. Maybe it's their hometown. So it's very important for NIO to place infrastructure in these fourth, fifth tier cities, and asking the sales rep if they outsell the auto, they don't. They don't in here in these fourth and fifth tier cities, and it's exactly the same for other fourth and fifth tier cities. It's very easy to understand an EREV, very difficult to understand battery swap. Even after you explain it to them, you gotta show them a video, and even after that, they probably need to experience it. And to experience it, it's very time consuming. If you give them a NIO for rental for a couple of days, that might also be problematic because the your budget constrained. There's only like a couple vehicles that are allowed to be lent out. So it's a everything's so restrictive, all right? Whereas NIO should really focus more on these smaller cities because that's where all the growth is at. You're not going to see sales double in Shanghai or Beijing. It's pretty much impossible because license plates as well, right? Constraining, everything is constraining. It's saturated, guys. So we'll have to see how NIO really improves, and there's really big potential, guys, right? And and you got to think of it from the other perspective. Once there's a little bit of sales, right? They realize, oh, it's selling a little bit here. They allocate more budget, more infrastructure. Ooh, more people know about battery swap. Ooh, more people buy in, bigger budget, bigger infrastructure, and it goes on. The snowball gets rolling, all right? And that's how sales get built up. But that's going to take some time, all right? Whereas I would prefer NIO to anticipate based on maybe GDP or something like that and just allocate sufficient budget for rapid growth instead of waiting for sales to pick up, which might take a while. Always stay safe, stay healthy. Peace out.